Well, hello there, fellow night horrors, and welcome to our Chronicle of Darkness, crossing over many games and all horrors of the night. This is Act 2 of our story, No Time for Reality. But don't fret, having watched the first act is in no way necessary to enjoy or understand the second act in our story. In Act 1, which you can watch right here in the video on demand, entitled Cold Cases, Forsaken Spaces, 3 hunters, a changeling, and a half-vampire crossed paths and stumbled on a massive conspiracy that culminated in their destroying a major Chicago landmark, and more importantly, the attendant infrastructure that was failing and threatening everything nearby. Unfortunately, there was more going on than they were aware of, and they inadvertently released something even worse into the city. Now several months have passed, and this new troop is going to have to deal with the fallout. I am Tyler, Eldritch Echoes Online, and I will be your storyteller for this chronicle. We are Vorpal Tales, and we have a variety of terrifying tales and awesome adventures we play every week, Sunday to Friday, all at 9 p.m. Eastern. Right now we're playing Conan by Modifius on Sundays, this right here on Mondays, Dungeon of the Mad Mage on Tuesdays, Ghost Hunters by Onyx Path on Wednesdays on this channel. Kickstarter starts tomorrow, go check it out. Starfinder by Paizo on Thursdays, and on Fridays, 2 bi-weekly rotating shows. Alien the RPG playing Destroyer of Worlds and Cult Divinity Lost by Hellcast. You can find us on almost all social media platforms by looking up Vorpal Tales. You can also find us by looking up Vorpal Tales on YouTube, Twitch, and coming soon, all your favorite podcast platforms. You can also visit our website, vorpaltales.com, for all the info on us, as well as the free link to join our Discord and links to our Patreon page. Come check us out. Night Horrors, tell everyone who you are and who you're playing in this story, starting with Ever.
You would start with me.
We got no Sean.
Hi, everybody. It's me under the hood and the wig. So, I am Changeling Ever. I'm found on the internet as Changeling Ever. You can call me Ever. My pronouns are they, them, but tonight I will be playing Kellyak, whose pronouns are she or it. And,
sorry.
Yeah? What? Oh.
Go ahead.
No, that's good.
And Patty.
Hi, my name is Patrick. I am found on the internet as @PattyShakes_, and tonight I will be playing Donovan.
Excellent. Tiffany.
Hello, I am Babushka Katyana Kuznetsov. I am here to take care of all the lovely little childrens. I give you all my love. I'm so proud to be your babushka. But please, your homework so you can get into a good school. Hi, I am Tiffany, also known as the Pinky88 here on Twitch, and I will be playing Katyana Kuznetsov.
And Eric.
Oh, hi, I'm Eric. I cannot possibly follow that, but you can find me on Twitter at Maroon Recluse. Tonight I will be playing Benji Del Santos, the former Army medic and the flannel-wearing guy from Wyoming.
And also, if I butchered the name, I apologize. But Lishit, thank you for the sub. We appreciate it. We also have Space Lord PJ's Sean on the and known as Macintosh in this game. However, 1, he's on vacation, and 2, his character actually doesn't enter in the first session. He enters in the second, so you get to enjoy his lovely mug next week. All right, now let's get this thing going. The world is sick. It's an acceptable proposition. The less acceptable part is where we, and in particular you and everyone you care about, are the cause. In the Chronicles of Darkness, it would be easy to give mortals a free pass and say, the vampires are the true plague on humanity, or the created bring ruin to the world with disquiet. But all things, living, unliving, spiritual, and machine, contribute to the peeling of the world's surface and the exposing of its innards to contagion, Big C. Contagion comes in many forms. In one chronicle, it might be the rotten reflection of the God Machine, though the God Machine is hardly an entity of purity and goodness normally. In another, It might be an antivirus out of control, attempting to purge the world of all sick elements. In others, it might be a mundane sickness, but one that afflicts supernatural beings as easily as mortals. Others might present it as a weapon, a concentrated blight on a specific populace, or a mutation in the blood, the soul, or even the words you speak. It can be many things, but it is tearing the world we know from underneath of us, and it's contagious. It may be the fault of you and yours, the vampires, the werewolves, the hunters, the changelings, and all the other dark kin. If it isn't stopped, the world may change irrevocably, becoming poisonous to its inhabitants. Its elements may be dragged into another plane, or corrupted regions from an interstitial dimension may replace parts of our own world. The Contagion Chronicle is the fight to understand, weaponize, or prevent this plague. Some creatures may use it as a bludgeon, while others desperately try to suture the wounds and prevent further infection. It affects every creature capable of perceiving and interacting with the supernatural, thereby making it the central element of this story. The Contagion Chronicles book, which you can go check out now in PDF or printable form, is available, and is the first book by Onyx Path dedicated to crossover stories in Chronicles of Darkness, wherein the more the merrier, the more diversified the merrier. It uses the core system from Chronicles of Darkness for all mundane interactions, and the individual rules from each game line for when a monster needs to use a power or a fuel source. Additionally, the Contagion Chronicle presents new rules for playing in crossover games, where the more diversified the group is, the more powerful they become, to encourage variety. In these games, characters join factions known as the Sworn or the False and have access to new powers known as Vectors. Vectors encourage crossover play and are demonstrably stronger the more diverse the crew is. Therefore, if it's all vampires, the Vector still works. But if it's a vampire, Promethean, and a hunter, the Vector works better. The Sworn provide a faction that unites characters across splats or monster types, and also provides resources and contacts to possibly fall back on, along with access to the Vectors I mentioned. The Sworn themselves are devoted to combating the contagion, acting as healing agents within the god machine itself. Like any medicine, they attempt to cure the disease through a variety of means, in a variety of factions. Some require subtlety and infiltration, some are more aggressive, and some cures are terminal, killing one site before the disease spreads. Every member of the Sworn has their own inherent or acquired resources at hand that they can leverage against specific outbreaks, but the overall methodology of the group has led to the discovery or creation of supernatural techniques in combating the contagion. Over the centuries, Sworn members have strengthened or reinvented those methods into useful tools in their eternal fight. These preternatural methods of contagion are collectively called vectors, as we just mentioned. They are different from supernatural powers. Once a faction starts collaborating, they learn more about the contagion as a whole, and that experience leads to the acquisition of effective methods to use against the common enemy. As the faction learns from their successes and failures against the disease, they acquire more powerful vectors. Sometimes the vectors can also be useful in each member's daily existence, but that's just a perk. In general, the vectors are tools the whole faction utilizes as part of your duties as Sworn. Purchasing vectors is a group collaboration event, and therefore is separate. Only specific beats can be used to buy vectors. Lessons learned from direct action against the contagion or faction goals that aid the Sworn's fight provide Sworn beats. Sworn beats are tracked for the entire faction instead of individual characters, although one character's actions might result in the faction gaining a Sworn beat. Sworn beats are awarded in addition to normal beats, not instead of them. 5 Sworn beats becomes 1 Sworn experience. Vector. Okay, so we were talking about vectors, the supernatural powers that you gain from being a member of Sworn factions that you purchase as a group with Sworn beats and Sworn experiences that are accrued as a group and spent as a group. Well, they can be accrued individually, but they go into a group pool. Okay. Vector powers, like Sworn beats, are also shared among the faction. Once a vector is purchased, every active member of the Sworn in that faction gains access to the ability. It's like a tactic with Hunter the Vigil, or a teamwork power. Vectors derive their power from the group, even if an individual is using one. Each vector costs 2 Sworn experiences, and vectors are purchased in order. If there are members of multiple Sworn groups within a faction, Sworn experiences are spent by the whole faction as normal, but only the effective sworn gain access to that vector. Vectors are sworn faction specific, so while all players might agree to buy that, only the members of that faction can use it. How many people will be in each faction we'll deal with when that part of the story comes along. We will explore vectors in more detail once you are approached by the various factions present in this story. Choose who to join. Theme and mood. The Contagion is about loss of control of yourself, others, your environment, and your circumstances. Imagine a dementia patient terrified to realize he no longer remembers his own family or what year it is. He can't function on his own anymore, and things seem to happen at random. His actions prompt the wrong reactions. People tell him the facts he knows to be true or false, and he has no way of knowing whether they're right or just lying to take advantage of his confusion. That's the Contagion. Unlocking the core themes of this chronicle in play can be tricky because we want characters to experience the loss and disorientation without letting those experiences spill over on you guys as the players. Open communication and transparency are key, so there are a few tools we'll be using to handle this. One, we will be using the clues system from Chronicles of Darkness that some of you experienced in the Hunter the Vigil prequel we played previous to this. I will also be using visual and musical cues. So if things seem nonsensical to you, and you see, number one, I may change my background image, like so. Or I could kill my camera. Steve's life could be miserable. Like so. If you see it change to this background, which looks like rain and eyeballs, that's a visual cue. The producer can kill me later. Second, if I do this in Astral, that's your second cue.
Oh.
Oh, thunder and lightning?
No.
Oh.
The glitch.
The glitch.
Oh, I missed the glitch. I expand my character sheet out every time, so
No.
I can't see it. I know which effect you're talking about, though.
Yeah. And last but not least, a very specific song cue. Only, ever, always, and this one. We'll let it run for like 20 seconds so you can get the idea. Those are your three cues. I will not necessarily use all three. I may bounce between them from scene to scene because that keeps you off balance and forces you to pay attention, which is how you want this to work in this kind of campaign. Questions on that part? So basically, if things get really weird and I'm not doing any of those, it's not the Contagion, it's something else. If things get really weird and I am doing that, that's the player's cue, that the characters can do something about it. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Also, although this book talks about the Contagion and infection like it's a disease with observable symptoms, your characters won't know it's a sickness until they investigate and start to understand the bigger picture. I will show you what's happening through the story rather than tell you. I won't say, this infrastructure is infected. Instead, I would show you a ripple effect that lets you figure out the carrier and the vectors as you dig deeper to figure out where it came from.
Got it.
Things to remember for your specific splat in a crossover game for you to play up on in the Contagion Chronicle. Beast the Primordial, looking at you, Patty. During an outbreak, the children often have trouble dealing with the alien terror that Contagion brings. They're masters of human fear, but they have no one to teach them lessons about the panic that sets in when nothing in humanity's ancient well of nightmares has anything to say about the viral breakdown of reality. True existential horror plagues to be gotten as the tables turn. Mortals don't know they have anything to fear, while the monsters are now the ones with their hearts pounding in their chests, constantly looking over their shoulders for the menace. Keep that in mind. Changeling! Some changelings find themselves fascinated by the God Machine and its glorious and hideous melody. Its perfect symmetry and elegant equations remind them of the beauty they found beyond the hedge. And the grinding of its broken gears is like the exquisite pricks of thorns. But they learn quickly not to mistake the two when they realize that while even the true Fae submit to the Weird's laws of reciprocity, the machine doesn't play fair, and the Contagion follows no comprehensible rules at all. It's just an ever-mutating cancer that consumes without ever giving anything back. For hunters, we'll save that for Macintosh when he's here. Short version, he has to deal with the fact that eventually you're going to have to hurt mortals, and your monster's hurting mortals, and that breaks his code. Vampire the Requiem. A vampire flirts with piety and blasphemy equally, but while she could call the Contagion a kind of blasphemy, it's nothing she wants any part of. The God Machine confuses many vampires. Surely God is more than a dispassionate collection of ones and zeros. If not, what does that say about the damned? But most kindred save the philosophical musings for a time when they can resume their regularly scheduled requiems. The Contagion demands a solution, and if they have to include the rest of the sworn in their schemes to make one happen, well, having a few powerful witches and monsters owe them debts for their help is all to the good once the disaster is past. And lastly, Werewolf the Forsaken. The Contagion is an affront to everything the Forsaken stand for. It degrades sacred places, disrupts harmonious systems, taints spirits, and preys on everything without discrimination. Werewolves get themselves and their factions in trouble when they can't contain their outrage over the sheer debasement of it all. It's even worse when the enemy has no face, no blood to spill, no name to curse. How do you hunt a defective occult matrix made up of nebulous trade routes and schedules? The Forsaken need their factions to help them channel their fury into meaningful action and balance out their offensive prowess with defensive strategies. Okay, I will be using many systems to balance the crossover of such normally opposed factions, and we also have our normal tools for if things get too intense, including your previously filled out consent forms and the stop, pause, and bleed over check-in cards. Additionally, we have a new system in use for this game. It's called agonism. Agonism is a concept based on good faith conflict as the means to achieve a greater good. Even when the troop communicates effectively out of character, a mixed faction is bound to run into eternal conflict sooner or later. Why not offer rewards for handling it well? The following is the system the Contagion Chronicle book offers for adjudicating in-character conflict between PCs in a way that encourages teamwork and occasionally backstabbing. Social currency. Agonism relies on the exchange of social currency. Characters accumulate points of social currency through acts of support and trust, and building their reputations among the sworn. As follows. Once per scene, a character can earn 1 point by putting herself at risk or giving something up to meaningfully aid another PC. Once per scene, a character can earn 1 point by putting herself at risk to do something that slows, hinders, or cures the contagion, or significantly benefits the sworn group. Once per scene, each character who participated in a successful teamwork action with other PCs gains 1 point. If a character has any points of social currency, whenever she's a secondary actor in a teamwork action, she always adds at least 1 die to the primary actor's roll, even if she fails her roll. If she dramatically fails to reduce the penalty, she imposes on the primary actor's roll to -3. So if you participate in teamwork and already have points, it does nothing but help. At the end of each chapter, each player awards 1 social currency point to someone else's character for something they did in that chapter, whether it was healing his wounds, talking him through a hard time, or just providing good banter. You can't earn 2 points for the same action, however, so you can't have multiple votes for the same thing. There are usually smaller gestures than those that earn character points from me. Or from, in our case, from each other with group votes at the end of the night. Whenever a character or group of characters who agree to compromise wins a negotiation, which I'll talk about in a second, distribute all the social currency she bid evenly among the losers. A character who voluntarily capitulates gains 1 extra point and a sworn beat. If all negotiating characters reach an acceptable compromise, everyone gains a point and the group gains a sworn beat. You can only earn 1 sworn beat from negotiations per scene. Whenever you resolve the trusting condition, which we'll talk about in a second, she or the trusted character gains an extra social currency. And at the end of each chapter, everybody loses 1 social currency point, meaning you have to continually put in effort to stay in good graces. Why do those matter? Negotiation. Whenever 2 or more player characters come into conflict and players wish to resolve it using agonism, you enter negotiation. Whichever of them has the most social currency goes first. If it's a tie, highest composure goes first. The first character bids a number of social currency points she has that he's willing to part with to assert dominance. Then, each character in order of current social currency total or composure has a chance to outbid the previous offer. Go around the circle as many times as it takes before the highest bidder stands unchallenged. With each bid, the player must offer a new argument, a new bribe, a threat, or something else to bring his opponents around to his point of view. Whoever's bid is the last one standing wins the negotiation. Everyone else takes back their points, and the winner or winners in a compromise distributes the current social currency that was bid evenly among all losers. Any leftover points vanish. Any character may on his turn voluntarily capitulate. If so, he withdraws from the negotiation, keeping all his points and gaining the benefits we just mentioned. Only one character per side of the argument may participate in the negotiation. If several characters agree on a course of action, pick one and they become negotiator. On your turn, a player may offer a compromise instead of a new bid. If all participants accept the compromise, negotiation ends, you keep your currency you bid, and you gain the benefits we just mentioned. If only some accept it, we keep going like nothing changed. But now all characters who accept the compromise can pool their currency to outbid the remainder. A character who has social currency invested in another participant, which we'll talk about in a second, may never spend his last point to outbid. If it comes down to that, he must capitulate, but he gets the benefits. This entire system will not be used when you can just roleplay it out, which would be a lot or even most of the time. This is for when problematic issues won't go away just by role-playing, like, I don't know, a man in black murdering 15 civilians in front of a chaotic good void engineer or something. You know. Investment. I don't know, random, unrelated example. Investment. A player may invest between 1 and 3 social currency points into another protagonist. PC. Doing so indicates a significant level of trust. When you invest social currency in another player's character, that character gains the trusting condition with respect to you. You can have this condition multiple times from multiple people doing this. Questions about any of that? This is a way for you can earn points by helping each other, so you can use points to win arguments when the vampire and the werewolf decide they want to kill each other. Or whatever.
Fair.
We'll take it to auction.
And you can also use them to pay each other back and forth to give each other positive conditions. They give you bonuses.
Oh, cool. Well, we're
It's a cool way they came up with for cross-group splats to work as a team. Okay, now that we're done with rules and stuff for the Contagion Chronicle, let's talk about you. We're going to go over each of you one at a time. First, tell us all about your story. Then, tell us about your touchstones. And finally, we will have you run down the basics of how your monster works and the unique powers and mechanics you have. Then we'll spend any starting XP you have carried over from previous parts of this game, or for the newbies, your newbie XP points for entering the Chronicle for the first time. That way, since we have a variety of splats, anyone watching can know what to expect from your particular splat. Also, for those who don't know, that's the word we use for the various kinds of monster templates that go on portals.
Splat books.
So, I'm going to start with Eric.
Oh, and naturally.
All right, tell us about your story, Mr. Wolf.
Well, Benji, he has, he had a family from overseas, and he was born in the U.S. He kind of spent some time outside the U.S. and living in places like Guatemala and Mexico City with his parents. And after a point, they moved to Wyoming, and he decided to join the army, which was not a great idea. He ended up getting shipped overseas, and he never was the kind of person that was very confrontational or harmful to people, which is why he enlisted to be a medical technician. So like he's like your trauma guy. And his favorite G.I. Joe character was Lifeline, naturally, growing up. So when he was forced with the reality that he was going to have to take a life or lose his own, it kind of changed him at that moment, and he wanted out right away. So as soon as he could, he pulled the plug on that particular occupation, and he decided to try to live a normal life as best as he could. But at some point, like, something happened, and he started changing as an individual. Not in a figurative way, but in a literal way. He started undergoing the transformation of the beast, as it were. He started having dreams about running through the forest. He envisioned himself in that form, in a wolf form, with other wolves as part of a pack. He didn't know what it meant. He was trying to make sense of it, but he couldn't. So he tried to get away from people. When he started realizing that he was losing control of himself and that he was potentially hurting other people around him, he couldn't take it. So he decided to distance himself as much as he could. And he did the only thing that it made sense. He tried to live in the most secluded area that he could find in Wyoming. So he found like a big open sprawl forest. He used everything that he had, every resource that he had, to construct a small cabin for himself, and he literally took himself off the grid. To protect his loved ones, he also cut off ties to them, which wasn't easy, but it's something that he had to do. And then that sort of changed a little bit when he met Howie. Howie, the 2-year-old Alaskan puppy dog that wandered into the forest one day. He made efforts to contact its owners because it had tags, but he failed in doing so. And when somebody called back from the voicemail, he asked them, like, "Hey, I have your dog here. Do you want to pick him up, or do you want me to bring him over?" And they were like, "Nope." He just hung up. So ever since then, he decided to take on the Alaskan puppy for himself as a sort of almost like a kindred spirit of sorts. And also, he just couldn't take the fact that it kept laying down on the front steps of his cabin and started whining quietly for food every night. So eventually, it wore away at poor Benji, and he allowed him to become part of his life. And now that's essentially who he is now. He lives on the edges of civilization, and every once in a while, he takes a walk into the city, takes a walk right back out, and goes back out to the forest. That was way too long, I'm sorry.
Nope, that was not way too long. Pretty much what I was looking for. Okay, tell us about your touchstones, or in your case, just the one.
Yeah, I was originally thinking that it would be his sanctuary or his other family members, but I think at some point Benji made a very decisive. He made a very definitive decision to cut himself off from his family for their own sake, and instead he decided to entrust his friendship with this animal, almost like taking him on as a child, like he was going to raise himself. So as far as touchstones are concerned, Howie would be the one. What else am I forgetting here?
It's pretty good. Who he is to you, what he looks like, his personality.
He likes to chew on things that aren't made to be chewed on, so he oftentimes will just go to the local Goodwill, or he'll pick up random stuff wherever. The smellier, the better. So, like, he'll purchase an old pair of sneakers or something like that, and go, "Oh, play with these, Howie." Because everything else that he tries naturally, like, "Hey, I bought this thing for you," he'll just ignore it, and he'll just go choose something else instead. So he's like, "Okay, here's an old sweater. Go destroy that."
Nice.
I kind of imagine him doing something like that.
Okay. Next, go ahead and run down the basics of how your monster works and your unique powers and mechanics.
Okay. So, with his sheet, I made it so that he has area of expertise. He has something called a safe place, anonymity, and relentless assault. With the anonymity, it basically reinforces this idea that he completely takes himself off of the grid. He can't be found very easily. He's not very easily traced to where he's at. So the idea being that his little log cabin in the woods could be effective little, home away from home, or like a little base of operations for his pack, so to speak. If he decides to take in other people as part of his immediate circle of associates. Let's see, when he does change form, it's actually kind of painful for him, mostly because he's sort of new at this whole thing, but also because he fears the beast. He doesn't want to become the thing that he eventually loses control to. Some things will set him off. The sight of blood, unfortunately, does that. It takes him back to the time when he was overseas, when he watched his friends get mowed down, and he had to operate on people who were, hurt by roadside bombs or shootings or what have you. That sort of stuff sets him off. And of course, there's the very intimate portion of his trigger that involves losing people that are close to him. So people that are part of his pack or his group or his unit, as he was in the military, is something that would trigger his transformation, or the urge to revert to that primal form. So oftentimes when he changes, it's very painful. It's the kind of thing that you can imagine, where the body's like changing and bones are snapping and skin is tearing and muscles are tearing themselves over and over again and growing larger. Like, it's that sort of thing. It's not a painful. It's a very painful experience, and he doesn't want to understand it. He doesn't want anything to do with it. He just wants to find a way to get rid of it. And very much in that sort of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, or Bruce Banner in the Hulk sort of mentality. He is this, gentle giant at his heart, but every once in a while this monster gets loose, and he's terrified as to what it's going to do to others around him. So as such, I would imagine, as part of his construction of his cabin, he has a place where he can lock himself up and just keep himself contained if he decides, or if he ends up wolfing out for whatever reason. I think the last one of the specific triggers is the moon itself. Like, if you were to hear the wolf howling when his specific moon is hanging in the sky, that's something that can seriously or very specifically set him off. Anything else that I'm missing here? He has a couple gifts. As far as like the wolf and shadow gifts, he has the moon gift, where he can run very silently. He has a special ability called One Step Ahead, and he has something called Quicksilver Flesh. So he's pretty good. He's been able to use his essence to basically transform, shapeshift himself as necessary, which is useful, especially considering he wants to maintain himself as incognito as possible. So I can imagine a run-in with the police, going something like, "Oh, we got this guy who's like a vagrant or something like that. We need to go check him out." And as soon as they show up, they just see a wolf like sauntering off, and it's like, "Oh, maybe get animal control. I don't know what they're talking about." And he just kind of wanders off and disappears.
Okay. Did we miss anything? That sounded like all of it.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. So, technically, you're new to this chronicle, but not to the World of Darkness, since you played the classic 20th anniversary edition World of Darkness. So we're going to let you carry over from that story a little bit. You can spend 10 XP from your character at its current start level.
Oh, wow. Okay. XP.
You have your book handy?
Yep.
Okay. If you have questions about what you want to buy, ask me. If not, when you're done, I'll circle back to you and you can tell everyone what you purchased.
Cool, you got it.
All right. Now we're going to jump to Katiana. Tell us about your story, Tiffany.
Oh, woman, she is in a small village, or town specifically, in Russia, Mushkin. It's about 180 miles from Moscow. And she lived there pretty quietly, with her family, till, let's say about like early 40s. She was driving down home and sees somebody, pulled over on the side of the road, lights flashing, so she's just like, oh, okay, let me just go help this person out. And she sees someone dead in the driver's seat, and then some like small childlike thing ripping apart someone's throat in the passenger seat. Looks up, sees Katiana, and like sprints after her. Katiana blacks out, wakes up in her car, in her driveway, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. And she starts changing and growing, noticing her appetite's changing. She's not eating as much. She's not, the smell of food is actually making her nauseous, and drinking stuff is kind of like making her gag. She just can't even hold down water. It's just gross. And she starts losing weight. Her skin starts paling, and everything starts changing, and she doesn't understand why. She just feels like she has to drink blood. Like, it's just not, it just makes no sense to her. And this goes on for like the longest time, and then her husband has a heart attack. And it's been like 15 years, and she's snuck in blood every now and then. She'll pick off a squirrel, or she would hire some of the locals to hunt down some of the wolves, and she would feed off of them. She would say, oh, I'm just cutting up the meat, and she'd make a meal out of it, but she would drink the blood. She'd drain everything first, drink it afterwards. And after her husband died, she just kind of like said, you know what? No, I can't do this anymore. I have no one else. I'm sorry. Just packed all her shit and left. Went to America. Literally just left the whole country and disappeared. She felt it was better and safer for everyone else involved. Because she killed her. Like, her husband died from a heart attack, but she drank from him. She felt kind of like, oh shit. Like, nah. And so she just hides, and she went from city to city, state to state, and eventually found herself living in like the Harlem area, in Chicago. And she just kind of hides and keeps her own business. And when she's walking down the alleys late at night and sees someone kind of overdose in the alley, quick meal, no one really got hurt. And she makes sure to keep it lined up with the needle marks. She tries her very best to try to blend it in, but she does not like what she is. She absolutely hates it. And she just wants nothing more than just to stay away from people.
Yeah.
Poor Katiana. That poor woman.
And go ahead and tell us about your one touchstone and the characters around it, because I think you said it's a group of one in particular.
Well, Katiana has always been very motherly. She's always been the type to make sure to take care of everyone. That's why it was just really hard and painful for her to hide the secret, that she desires blood. She didn't really know what a vampire was. She didn't really, she's an older woman, she doesn't really deal with the internet and all this other stuff. And while in Chicago, she sees this little kid kind of running around, and, the little kid is eventually neglected by her mother. So Katiana's like, I'll take care of you. Here's some clean clothes. Here's some food. Oh, you need somewhere to shower because your mom locked you out because she's too busy, not being a mom. Okay, cool. Katiana just really kind of stepped up, and this little girl has kind of like been her child that, reminded her so much of her own son that she abandoned. Granted, he was older, but still, she's a mom. Once a mom, she kind of like really embodied that whole mom spirit. And so she just really takes care of this little girl, is very possessive over her, and just wants to make sure that this little girl knows that she's got someone to take care of her. And it kind of just gives her a reason to like pretend that she's actually human, to actually try to resist the beast within her.
Perfect. Now let's have you do a quick rundown of the Gangrel, your specific bloodline, and that short little list of mechanics we talked about earlier.
Well, Gangrel is a particular clan of the kindred or the vampires, they're more considered as like the savages of the kindred kind. They're kind of like but I guess if you would relate this to like D&D, it'd be like the barbarian. They will tap into rage constantly. They'll often go feral and just kind of like lose themselves within the beast and the beast is what they call the creature or like the monster within. Katiana specific bloodline within the Gangrel clan is the Vedma, which they tend to be solitary creatures. They're also, again, relating to like a D&D thing, kind of like rogues or bards. They're very sneaky, they're very charismatic, and they like to manipulate and trick individuals into thinking what they want to believe. So they're very, very charismatic in that manner. Traditions, vampires have like kind of like the 3 laws of robotics, you know. They have 3 laws that all vampires tend to follow. In this particular instance, it's you have to keep up the facade. You have to like make sure that you're protecting yourself and all other vampires. Like you can keep everything secret. You can't let it out. You know. Tradition number 2 is that it's kind of like taboo to create another vampire, but if you do create a vampire, you're super responsible for that individual. Anything that this person does is on you. So like if they hurt somebody, okay, you're gonna get in trouble for it, plus that person, you know. And tradition number 3 is it's forbidden to drink the blood of your own kind. So it's essentially, don't be a cannibal. Now this last one is kind of like not strictly enforced, but it's also kind of like, oh, if you do that, then you're kind of gonna go cuckoo bananas, because when you fully drain another vampire, you're essentially drinking their soul, so that soul becomes part of you. So then you're gonna be like 2 souls in one body, and you're gonna be hearing things, seeing things, and you'll have like your memories will be all messed up and mixed up with each other, and you won't know who's who at that point. A lot of vampires, they have these things called the tricks of the damned, and these are kind of like the basic things that any kindred can do. Blush of life is one where I can mimic being alive for a little bit. So instead of being pale, I can kind of make it look like I have actual like blood in my cheeks. I look like alive, you know. Most vampires are very good at seeing in pure darkness, and depending on how many dots they have in the particular skill called blood potency, they can hear heartbeats from like up to 3 meters away or farther, depending on how many dots they have in this particular skill. They're also extremely fast and stronger than anything that's human. So can very easily pick up a car. They could run probably just as fast, if not faster, than, you know, Usain Bolt, because like the fastest man alive. You know, for comparison. To go back to the blood potency, this is essentially like the ability that a vampire, like what they can and cannot feed from. So they start off with the basic 1 dot, which means they can feed from rats, cats, dogs, like small animals. And then as they get older, they can gain more dots, or you can put more experience into it, you know, as you level up. When you reach about the 3rd dot, that means you can't just eat from animals anymore. You actually have to feed from people. Like, you can't just be like, oh, I'm hungry and just eat a rat. Nah, you got third dot, you gotta find a person. That's just like it. And as you get older, and you reach like 6 dots or more, that means you have to start feeding from supernatural stuff. So like changelings, fairies, werewolves, other vampires, even though that's like considered taboo. You gotta start going for the harder stuff, you know, because you won't be able to get actual blood from it at this point, you know. Most vampires are immortal, for the most part, except for like basic things like, you know, if you obviously, you know, set them on fire, that's gonna hurt, potentially could kill them. You put them out in the sunlight, again, could to potentially kill them. Stakes are like a big no-no, could to potentially kill them. Like I said, it's just like, you know, you have to really, if you just leave them alone, don't mess with them, they could live forever. Now, a lot of clans have like specific curses also. Each clan has a different one. And this one, gangrels specifically, they, like I said, or before, they're like savages. So they live very close with the beast within them. They're kind of like buddies with the monster within them. In this case, though, it causes them sometimes to go a little cray-cray bananas, where like they'll go overboard with it. And they'll end up, which is another thing a lot of kindred fight against. Some are better at fighting against the beast than others. The frenzy is like pretty much like a fight or flight instinct for kindred or vampires. However, this fight or flight means you either fight the crap out of something because it's attacking you or attacking someone you love or attacking your goal and you're trying to like defend, you know, yourself against it. You can run away, or you have to feed, which in this case, you know, is just drinking off of either a person, another supernatural being, or an animal if you can get a hold of it. Now, also, each kindred have their own set of disciplines, which is really interesting. Katiana in specific, though, I wanted her to kind of like fall like into the whole like a charmer and very charismatic kind of thing, despite her old age. She has animalism, which this particular discipline allows a vampire to slip the leash of their beast or the monster within them, and it kind of lets them overpower or kind of like manipulate weaker animals like squirrels, rats, dogs, cats, that kind of thing. It affects most predators and scavenging animals. Protein, which is the ability to kind of like become a shadow. It also allows them at higher levels to get sharper fangs and claws. So she essentially can cause just about as much damage as a werewolf could with their own claws. Like, Vedma are very skilled in this ability. Particularly, they will just rip into you and you'll think it was an animal doing it versus a vampire. Resilience, which is, you know, allows a vampire to continue fighting or despite their body being like ripped apart into tiny little pieces. On top of already being resilient against, you know, normal attacks that a human would just crumble against, this ability or discipline allows them to really just keep on fighting. Like, think of, I guess, like Second Wind, kind of like in the D&D world, where despite like maybe only have like 1 HP, they're going to keep on going, keep taking the hits, and they're going to keep on trucking through. Now, this particular one, I'm really, really bad at pronouncing. It starts with a Z. I think it's Agavani, I think is how you pronounce
Correct.
it. Yay, first try. This is a particular set of skills that Venma tend to use, which helps like manipulate their mysteriousness, their ability to lie, tell tricks, deceive, and they can also, depending on how many dots you have in this ability, can boost their other skills. So it's a really good thing to have, and this one is a particular one that's just for the Vedma, I believe. So I'm pretty excited to play her. I get to practice Russian accent. This is lovely.
Well done, thank you. All right. Now we move on to our priest. First, tell us your story, and then about your touchstones. Once you unmute.
Yes, that would probably help, right? My name is Donovan Murphy, and I was born in Killarney, Ireland. As a boy, I was part of a very large, very Irish, very Catholic family. So Irish.
How large?
So large and Irish, actually, that I have about 10 other brothers and sisters, and so Irish that a lot of them were involved in the IRA. This gave me my kind of background into wanting to fight. So I realized there wasn't a lot for me in my homeland. So I rose up as quickly as possible through the ranks of mixed martial arts fighting. And I very quickly found one of my best friends, Callum. He rose up through the MMA with me. We became more brothers than I was with any of my brothers or sisters. Rise, we were about to both go over to the USA and start fighting in the USA leagues. One of his fights, he was paid off to load his wraps with brass knuckles, and before the ref could intervene, did so much damage to Callum that it busted out his eye and did so much damage to his lungs that he's not able to compete anymore. That caused me to start having terrible dreams about being sucked into the abyss and people finding out the secrets of my family and my origins as, the son of an IRA member. And finally one night, I instead of surfacing from the depths of the waters, and instead of waking up, I realized that there was a deep history to me. I was one of the beasts. I was a Leviathan. I was part of the Night Mother's children. And I learned that I would have to feed on humans to satiate myself. I ended up moving to the USA, to a small little Maine. Everything is small, but a small city in Maine called Bangor. I lived right off the Penobscot River. I had a sailboat and things were going well for me until I realized that I wasn't satiating my beast enough. And so I had a near drowning experience. How very fitting for me. As my sailboat was wrecked, I washed ashore and realized that I would have to do more to do this. So under the guise of surviving a near-death experience and being converted, I took vows to the priesthood, where I used my ability to take confession, to listen in on people's deepest, darkest secrets, and to use that information against them, and to unveil their secrets to their loved ones, which satiated my beast. Now that I've kind of established myself, I realize that this new life fits me very well. I enjoy finding just the tiniest little tidbits. I enjoy learning the horrible secrets that people have done, and I enjoy blessing them, cleansing them, and relieving them of their burdens of having secrets to their families.
Tell us about your touchstone.
Excuse me. Mechanically, the beast kind of touchstones aren't really the thing, but mechanically, to kind of make everyone on an even playing field, my touchstone would be a woman named Nessa. She was my first love over in Ireland. It was one of those on again, off again, hot, cold kind of things. And she followed me over to America during my MMA fighting scene, and we still keep in touch. And she is the person that I always go to, I always talk to. She knows just about everything about me, and she makes it very hard for me to keep some of my vows as a priest.
Nice. And now, tell us a little bit about beasts.
I am a beast. Specifically, I am of the family. The actual name is Makara, which are also the nickname is Leviathans or Krakens, deep sea monsters. We prowl the depths of any body of water, not just the ocean, but anything that you can't quite see the bottom of.
Oh, I love that.
Is where we're from. We and then each family of beast also has a hunger, a specific type of way that we feed off of humans, and mine is the hunger of whispers. It's not just so much for me to know someone's secret, but it's to confront them with it, confront their family, their loved ones with it. And that's what that exposure, that bringing your secret to life is what feeds me, is what gives me my sustenance, is what drives me. Beasts also. One second. This. Beasts also have. Where's the list that you gave us? We have what we call layers, where we actually travel to the twilight. What it's called, yes. And we have a layer there where we take on our true form. So, for all intents and purposes, I look like a normal human being day to day. You would, if just by looking at me, you'd have no idea that I'm a beast. But I have an alter ego, an identity that is revealed when I travel to my lair, called my horror. And my horror, I take on my beast's true shape and form, which is a giant, many tentacled entity that has eyes everywhere, giant, huge tentacles that look like they could take up entire bodies of water, lakes, rivers. They could sink tankers. I am this massive entity that lies at the depths of the ocean. That is my true form I take in my lair. The more, almost the level of vampires, I hunger. I have to constantly be feeding. It's called something I have to keep track of. It's called satiety, where it's a level of how often, how long ago, and how well I fed, which will drastically affect my abilities and powers, even my personality. And it's a fine balancing act I have to do. Too high, and my horror sleeps, and I am vulnerable and I can't access my powers. But too low, my horror takes over me and might just attack an innocent victim that I don't want to necessarily attack. So it's a very fine line I have to walk. My powers are called atavisms and nightmares. So atavisms are manifestations I can take on of my beast, where I employ some of its either physical or mental characteristics and can affect the real world. So some things I can do are I can mimic people's voice. I have a siren song I can use where I can call people to me and get them to trust me easier. I can manifest the ravenous maw that is my kraken's. Where I can consume in my physical human form. I can unhinge my body and my jaw like a python almost, and swallow things whole. I have unnatural charm as part of this alien physique that my monster would have, and I have the strength of a kraken, where I can beat people down quite easily. Which, along with my mixed martial arts background, allows me to very much defend myself when anybody thinks that they can get the better of me. I also have nightmares, which are more subtle things. So where my atavism might be, I might physically grow tentacles to slam someone down, or open my mouth to swallow a person whole. Nightmares are more subtle, where I just have to either touch someone or speak some words at them, and they will be affected. Where I can get someone to believe that they're all alone and experience breaking points. I can make someone obey me by giving them commands that they must follow. I can make someone feel that they are lost and are hopeless and cannot be found. And these things are drastically effective, not just against humans, but against any that might cross my path. And I also have beasts more than others like to get close to what we call our cousins, which are other creatures of the darkness, so vampires, changelings, werewolves, and such. So we have close family ties. I have a close family tie with our changeling, who will be introducing themselves here shortly. But that affects not just my relationships, but it can go run as deep as changing some visual effects of my lair, my powers, things like that. And as I grow closer with other members of this group, they might also become part of my kin, and I might introduce them. I can go so far as to even trust them to allow them access to my lair and prevent them from being affected by the effects of my lair. So it's beasts, while needing to be secretive so they aren't found by heroes, are also more so trusting of their cousins than any other. I also I think that's actually it, though. I don't want to reveal too much. Yeah, I don't want to reveal too much or too many specifics. But,
right.
I want to leave that for some shock factor, but that is
Plus
the overall.
Turn it into numbers, right?
Right, exactly. So that is the beast in a nutshell.
Awesome. Tiffany, I forgot to tell you. Also, you get the new bonus of 10 XPs. In the character creation section of the Requiem 2nd Edition core book, it'll have at the end of the character creation section the chart for what costs what. If you get stuck, let us know. And then after you spend them, let us know. I'll circle back around to you later.
I get lots of no snow?
Not a lot, but some. Patty, let's
Yes.
talk about Baptiste. How much did you end up with total XPs after you ended that game?
I don't know off the top of my head. Let me see if I can. I should be able to.
I can look it up if we need to, but yeah, if you got it.
Like how many XP did I get through the whole game?
Correct.
Quite a bit. I want to say like I increased like an attribute. I increased like 4 or 5 skills. Like I had a decent amount of XP that I spent. I think he's sitting on like 2 right now.
Yeah. We're gonna call it 15. Spend it now, and I'll circle back around to you.
Oh, damn!
And last but not least, let's talk about Kaliak. Give us the story in all of its juiciness.
From the very beginning?
You can talk about where Kaliak originally came from and a little bit about Lonin, sure, and then we can talk about how you came to be here in this game.
Okay. So, Kaliak was originally from a private game with a number of friends when I first started playing. I had created a changeling named Sammy, who was taken to Arcadia and changed by his time there forever. And it resulted in a split personality where Sammy would change physically and also ability-wise into another changeling entirely, and her name was Kaliak. She was a guardian of sorts. And it was a really unique character because we combined both the Fall Court and the Winter Court. So it was a combination of abilities, and it was really fun to play. So this character was so popular that
I'm gonna tell them too. If Sammy underwent one of his triggers from the really bad shit that happened to him in Arcadia, it's an exceptionally dark story even for changelings. Ever is good at that. If one of his triggers hit, Sammy would go bye-bye, but it wouldn't be like switching personalities. Kaliak would tear herself out from within inside Sammy, showering everything around her in gore and fear. It's kind of amazing. Carry on.
Just a little. Not to mention Sammy in his changeling form, his head was nothing but a flock of ravens. Figure out how eating works. Go ahead, I dare you. So this character was a lot of fun to play. I got to be a lot darker than any of my other characters. And another thing that was important for me as a player about Sammy was that he was on the autism spectrum, like I am. So even if he had sensory overwhelm, that could trigger a change from him to Keliak. And I apologize to our producer in advance. Keliak's favorite thing is spiders.
There'll be a lot of spiders in this game, Mr. Producer.
Okay, so I apologize to our producer and one of our players
Apparently.
in advance.
No, you don't understand how big of an arachnophobic I am.
It's
As
gonna
long
be
as I don't
great
have
then.
to touch it, I'll be okay. I don't want to touch it.
Yeah, you don't want to be touching Kaliak.
Yeah,
Carry
no,
on.
Don't touch Keliak.
I
So the idea behind this character and why I'm not playing Reese is that the contagion that Reese ended up touching switched him to Arcadia and switched Keliak, split from Sammy, into the human realm. So Keliak is absolutely miserable, stuck in a human-ish body, and she's trying to fix the contagion for the sole fact of being able to return things back to the way that they used to be. Not for anything good. She is giving you a heads up, she is a monster.
Yeah,
So-
so we did retcon that a little bit. Ever's been doing a lot today, but after the events of the last story, those of you who watched that story, Reese shined like a beacon in the night after he got infected and blew up the infrastructure bridge in Chicago. No matter how much McIntosh tried to hide him in the local 57 Union, his keeper came for him and dragged him kicking and screaming back to Arcadia. When he was there, it wasn't his keeper, I apologize. What's the word I'm looking for? Rival of his keeper got there first. It took him kicking and screaming back. Mab, self-proclaimed Queen of the Winter Court. And she threw him in her dungeons, but he was a major pawn for her. And so she focused a lot of time and attention on him. And one of Mab's previously favorite, most preferred courtiers was Keliak, who had been separated from Sammy because Sammy didn't need the monster anymore. Keliak, now free and an actual fae in Arcadia, got a little jealous of what Queen Mab was doing with this kid. So she arranged for him to escape. And, oh no, I'm so sorry, your keeper was waiting for you outside of the walls. However, in the exchange, he refused to go. So Keliak literally dragged him kicking and screaming out of his cell, making contact and picking up the contagion and all of his memories of the process. Mab found out, got really mad at Keliak and said, "Get out, you can come back when you've learned your lesson." Keliak woke up in the real world stuck in a meat suit and is very pissed off about it. Carry on.
Just a little. So her time separated from Sammy was mostly in the hedge and mostly in the autumn courts. So what she feeds off of is fear. She incites terror just to feed. Her time in the hedge changed her even more. Originally she was very winter, but she became more and more this haunted, terrorizing thing from her time in the hedge and her time in the autumn courts. Basically, she became a boogeyman of sorts to the Fae themselves. Be careful. If you break your oath, Keliak will come eat you. Be careful, little changeling. If you go into the hedge too far, Keliak will hunt you down, render you to pieces. So she's
It'll
become
really
even...
eat you. That's not a euphemism.
She is a gristle grinder, which a lot of changelings will have that title, but they might consume lust. They might consume money. They might consume a number of other things, even physical objects, or even chew through the hedge itself. But Keliak eats other fae, eats changelings, eats humans. Basically anything that is meat, she will eat it. So, don't offer her a bite to eat. She might take you literally. And let's see here. Time to open the Sheet of Doom. Okay. So, Kellyak, upon coming into the human realms, was discovered by an ex-druggie covered in tattoos and piercings. He thought that she was just another druggie down on her luck. So, this guy, his name is Ryan. He works at a Starbucks and is very much a hipster. And when he saw her, he was the only human who had never balked at her. Other humans, when they came across her, and her first arrival in the human realms, were terrified of her, even if she looked completely normal. In her human form, she's just got black lips, which looks like lipstick, but it's actually not. White hair, dark makeup. She's got a hood on because she's just really pissed at the world for how dare this contagion ruin my reign. So a little bit drama queen, but this guy Ryan has seen death firsthand. He'd been abused, he'd been homeless. So when he came across a confused Kellyak, he wasn't off put by her, because to him, she's just a strange woman. If he saw her true face, her true form, that might change, but he incites her curiosity. Right now, he has a tiny apartment. He's not homeless anymore. And he let her stay there because he figured she was just down on her luck. And her touchstones are him and the key that he gave her to his place. And that's important because for her, it was her first place to belong in the human world. And the key does not suit her at all. It is bright pink and Hello Kitty. So it's completely the opposite of her personality, but she will hold on to that, not just because it's the entry to where she lives right now, but because it's this ethereal thing that means so much. Also, Ryan is the only one allowed to nickname her, and he's nicknamed her Kelly, short for Kellyak, which she absolutely hates. And if anyone else called her that, she probably would murder them. And I would play that to its fullest. So if you test it, Kellyak will attempt to use abilities on you unless the DM goes, hey, that's not cool.
That's what agonism is for.
So, she grits her teeth when she hears Ryan use that nickname, but she owes him, so she allows him. She does have 2 frailties, which these things, I don't know, Tyler, do you want me to share these, or are these kind of more of
You could just do a one-sentence description of what a frailty is. Don't share them.
Okay, yeah, because they might be abused. So frailties are basically, if you think about the folklore of changelings, how if you were to toss rice out, kind of like a vampire, they'd have to stop and count it compulsorily. Or some fae can't abide the touch of St. John's wort. Some fae can't abide seining water, which Patty, this might be useful for your character. It's a Celtic thing where you put silver in water and it blesses it. It's like holy water, but pagan-y. Things like that are or iron even, are things that are frailties to changelings. Not every changeling, it varies. Like everyone dislikes certain things. Like I dislike neon colors. That would be a frailty for ever. Let's see. So I kind of skipped ahead a little bit, but when I mention Arcadia, that's the realm of the true fae. And any fae, to a certain degree, even changelings, can manipulate that realm with imagination alone. Durance is the time that a human would spend in Arcadia, and transform into a changeling. A changeling is a human that has become more fey, but a true fey is called gentry, or the good folk, or the good cousins. And you can be pulled into endurance by either a deal or a fae takes a liking to you and goes, "Hey, come here, little child, to the wilderness and the wild." And take you in and keep you because, "Oh, you have such pretty hair, little human," or, "Oh, you have such a lovely singing voice, little girl," or, things like that, where basically you're an object to the fae, and they'll do with you what they will. They don't really have what many of us would consider humanity. However, they do have their own rules, and they do make deals, oaths, and various agreements that the magic can bind both you and that fae to keeping. The Weird, spelled W-Y-R-D, is the force that governs all fae magic, and it's not a living entity, but in a way it is sentient, and it will do with particular rules what it wants. The hedge that I've mentioned before is the borderland between the human world and Arcadia. It's made of briars and thorns, and certain fae that travel through the hedge can have their own glamour drained from them just by being pricked on the thorns of the hedge, and the hedge is never the same. It changes. Even the fae themselves have a hard time finding their way through it, and they have to have special skills to do so. Let's see. Pledges are something I kind of touched on, and is basically the nifty thing of fae don't lie, but they don't always tell the truth. Don't tell them thank you, because that will be perceived as you owing them, and they will take out that debt. You do not in any way say, "Oh yeah, I promise I'll be right back," and don't be right back because something bad will happen.
Obviously, none of you will know this at the beginning, which would be awesome.
An oath between changelings, though, is done with full consent and free will. However, they don't afford other entities that, because the word is binding. But the changelings, the fae, know this. Other entities do not necessarily. Sealing is the simplest form of a pledge, and it's basically a sealed promise where changelings will do that to give themselves leverage with human antagonists or cement a bargaining position. The intent doesn't have to be sincere, and the fae can take advantage of promises made in haste or exaggeration since human beings first started using language. So, oh yeah, I totally promise we'll go to the candy store, kid. Well, if you don't, you might become candy yourself. Creatures of the weird, including changelings, are for the most part immune to the effects of sealing. Other fae creatures can attempt to seal their words, but since the fae know what to look for and can detect the slight fluctuations in the weird needed to seal a statement, they can undo the sealing as quickly as it's done. Let's see here. Kind of went over that. Oaths are a lot stronger than sealings, and it binds characters together. You will have to owe that changeling if you make an oath with them. And sorry, I'm skipping through a lot of words.
No problem.
There are common oaths. They can include joining a court, joining a motley, which a motley is basically a group of changelings that are over in the human world who are just working together. Kind of like our group, but all made up of changelings. The binding of an oath is permanent. Someone can break an oath, but doing so changes the parameters of the oath rather than erasing it.
Speaking of which, you can actually use a motley binding oath on the faction and it will work. Just remember that when you actually accept them all, because that's useful. Depending on how deep they go.
That'll be fun. Swearing an oath can have benefits because a changeling will not / cannot break an oath. Either way, they'll fulfill a bargain. They will owe you, period. So if you do enter an oath with a changeling, you can be guaranteed that it will be fulfilled. So it's not one-sided. Though sometimes it is. But you'll get something in return. Violating an oath, where is it? It basically intertwines fates. And changelings can specify what happened to an oathbreaker, but if they don't, then the weird, aka the DM, will take it into their own hands. And consequences might be even worse than the changeling had originally dreamed of.
Hey, Will.
Let's go down to...
Georgia?
No. The devil goes down to Georgia. I'm a changeling.
Oh, okay.
I'm just
No
gonna
one
go
picked a
ahead
devil. Maybe next time there'll be a devil in the party.
That's a thing?
Oh, there are demons.
I wanted to be one, but it was too complicated and I was very easily confused. And I thought it'd be more fun to play a grandma.
Nice.
You made the right decision.
Yes. My character...
Maybe next time. Sorry.
No, it's all good. My character's seeming is Darkling, and basically... Oh god, how do I explain this really simply? A seeming is kind of a category of changeling. Mine is a Darkling. They have nicknames such as the Bewitched, Mountebanks, Wisps. And their regalia is the mirror, and they are involved a lot with smoke, shadow, sunbeams, basically tiny elements that you don't think about, reflections, various mirrors. My character is a combination of the Autumn Court and Winter Court, which I somewhat explained earlier, but Autumn is basically, imagine there's this one person that you're around and there's something about them that just seems off. Like if they were if they were a holiday embodied, they would be Halloween, but not the blatant purple and green and happy smiling jack-o'-lanterns. It'd be that walk home on an autumn evening where you think you hear a noise behind you, but it's the rustling of leaves, right? But then you see a shadow cross your path and you look to the side where it came from and no one's there. And then you start to smell the decay of leaves and hay, and maybe even a bit of that mold that happens when a pumpkin's been out in the sun for way too long. You might come across a couple bones, and they're not really identifiable, but they look pretty old. And then you lose track of time, and suddenly you find yourself at the front door. And you walk in, and the lights don't work. You flip the breaker, and everything's back to normal. What was that? The Winter Court is unlike the Autumn Court. The Autumn Court feeds on terror and fear. The Winter Court feeds on sorrow, depression. So if you back in the older days, if you were affected by seasonal affective disorder, they might go, "Oh yeah, that's the winter fae." Something like that, where, you know, they feed off of that, they gain glamour, which is basically vampires feed on blood, the werewolves feed on
Heard?
Anger.
anger. And the winter court transforms sorrow into glamour, and glamour is what fae use. The gristle grinder kith I have explained. And let me see.
The audience, the easy way to understand a seeming is it's your werewolf clan or your vampire bloodline or your hunter faction. That's what it is mechanically. Trying to explain it in words that aren't mechanical, though, that's a little hard. It's a thing you seem to be.
Oh, I like that. It's a thing that you seem to be. I like it a lot. So, I have explained weird, I've explained frailties. I'm going through a list. Harvesting glamour, I kind of explained, but to be a little more technical, it's an emotional experience. Changelings feed on the power of sentiment, and it's not a predatory act, but it can be. If someone's just sad, they can take glamour from that. If someone's just afraid, they can take glamour from that. But changelings like Kellyak would go out of their way to cause terror to feed off of it because they get a thrill from it, or cause sadness because it's just fun. You know, it's like if you get a kid a cheeseburger, kid's gonna like the cheeseburger, it's a cheeseburger. But if you get a kid a Happy Meal, they're gonna like it even more because there's a toy that comes with the cheeseburger. That's
Science.
Now
science.
that is a comparison right there.
Yes.
I prefer chicken nuggets.
Yeah, the difference between harvesting and reaping. Harvest the wheat so that it'll grow back next year. You can tear that shit out by the stalk and leave it empty, but it's so much better.
Yes, reaping is a possibility, which my dark little heart is so happy. You can turn the person into a very just a husk of a being, and it's completely unfixable. It might manifest like lethargy. It could be mistaken for depression or exhaustion. Certain other supernatural entities, such as hunters and huntsmen, can recognize that. But if you're human, you just suddenly have depression forever and you don't know what happened. You just encountered that beautiful, handsome, enigmatic being, and then suddenly life wasn't worth living anymore afterwards. Weird. Clarity, which is unrelated, but related. It's relatedly unrelated. Is basically what keeps a fae from going into madness or going into banality. So if you have too much clarity, you're going to be more human. You have less access to the weird, less access to your abilities. If you have not enough clarity, you're just going to go on a killing spree, and, well, your neighborhood now has this Hat Man, or your neighborhood now has this Babadook. Something like that. Might be a changeling. Who knows? Make sure you throw some salt out, see if it stops and counts it before you run away. So I have a feeling that this character of mine will have trouble keeping clarity, just based on the fact that she's used to being a full fae after her separation with her host, and so now has to maintain a certain amount of humanness. a monster among monsters, if you will. Let's see here. Kenning is basically a way that a changeling can tell what is magical in the area. You can use your clarity to sense magics. The mask is basically what you see right now for my character. The white hair, the black lipstick, the hood, but it is not her. Is it pronounced Mien or Mean?
It's mean. Nope, Eric disagrees. Go with Eric.
Okay, so the mask is the illusion that hides a Fae's true form from human eyes, and it keeps humans from losing their minds, and sometimes even other supernatural creatures, depending. The Mien is the true form. It's the true shape transformed by the time in Arcadia, whether it's Durance or the time in the hedge where it's ripped you asunder. So, for example, when I was playing Reese, the makeup and character design that I wore was basically what his Mien was. His mask was just like dyed white hair, and I have a thing for white hair, I think. Dyed white hair and icy blue eyes, but his Mien was pale skin that looked like it was made of ice with dark shadows swirling about beneath the surface like a leviathan underneath of a glacial field. Kellyox, I'm holding out on a little bit to surprise you guys for when the rest of the costume comes in. So for now, this is what you get, and she won't, unless your supernatural entity can see through a mask, she won't show it on purpose because she does not trust anyone who is not Ryan, her touchstone, and even then she still really doesn't trust that touchstone, and she doesn't want to make him lose his mind yet. So that about covers it.
Yeah, I think that hit. Yeah. We talk about contracts. If not, those are like disciplines. The Fae makes contracts with the weird, and the weird gives power in exchange.
I did not cover that. I did not put that on my list. So that is
That's
my
okay.
bad. And mine, actually, I will just run through the list really fast.
Okay.
Tale of the Baba Yaga, Overpowering Dread, Cloak of Night, Boon of the Scuttling Spider, Chrysalis,
You're welcome, Steve.
Overpowering Dread, and Mien of the Baba Yaga. And that is all. My character's a little different because she's existed for more than one story. So we have a lot of delightful fluff there.
Yes, Ever will not need to spend XP like the rest of you because that's done in advance since it was an import. So, the rest of you, though, I'm going to circle back around. Eric, what you spend it on?
I increased some of my attributes, specifically resolve and composure. Benji doesn't want to become the beast. He wants to resist every urge that comes to change him into a killing machine. So it made sense to focus on that and try to like maintain his humanity, as it were, his harmony, I believe it's called. I also bought something for him called Code of Honor as a merit, which makes sense because he was an army medic, and he basically made a note to himself, if not just to the everybody around him, that he wouldn't take any life if at all possible. He doesn't want to kill anybody. In fact, the opposite is true. He wants to help people and resuscitate them, and no matter who they are, and a friend or foe. So I thought that made sense for him.
I concur. Mr. Beast.
Mr. Beast, he increased his layer size by 1, which a lot of my abilities and things are dependent upon my layer size. So that just gives me an overall increase to everything I do. I increased a couple of my skills, specifically occult and investigation, as well as his empathy, so that he can better manipulate people into giving up their secrets. I took the merit allies, specifically church allies. Just I didn't have it before, and I think that makes 100% sense to be able to tap into that resource. And finally, I took another atavism called Smashing Currents, which helps defend me in battle.
Nice. And last but not least, the Bloodsucker. What'd you take, Leech?
I didn't realize I was a lawyer.
Oh, you slam.
As the husband of a lawyer, I take that very personally. Just kidding.
So I increased Katsuya's some of her skills, made her better at socializing, at intimidating, and larceny. So yeah, that's a thing.
Good choices.
Yes.
Okay. Now, real quick, because he isn't here, I'm not going to steal all the man's thunder, but Hunter the Vigil 2nd Edition, McIntosh McGuire is a professional welder. He's part of local union, support labor. The union is his actual compact. He doesn't have a full conspiracy as a compact, but we let him take... I can't remember what the powers are called because I'm terrible. Endowments, as if he was a conspiracy. So he has the endowments of not the Chiron group, the ones that get all the cool toys. You hunters out there know what I'm talking about. But he has ghost killing ammunition and weird etheric goggles and equipment that lets him affect supernatural creatures with gear.
Well, that's just rude.
He also has some tactics, which, there aren't any other hunters in the group, but with crossover rules, those might come in useful for the rest of you. Avoiding being charmed monsters, controlled burns to killed monsters, and setting up wards. Carried over from his previous existence where he died, but then didn't die because of contagion. So, that'll be him when he arrives next week. If he wants to elaborate more, he can. But he'll probably just say support labor.
Probably. That sounds about right.
Okay. Last but not least, Kaliak, you begin with a brand new condition. Latent Contagion Carrier. This is persistent. I'll put it in Discord in a second. Your character does not show any signs or experience any symptoms, but she is a carrier for the contagion. Whenever she uses a supernatural power on another character who is not an ordinary human, or directly interfaces with them in some supernatural way, that character's player, or me if it's an NPC, rolls a chance die. Nothing can turn it into a normal die or add dice. On a dramatic failure, meaning you roll a 1, they gain the Contagion Touch condition and can spread it. In some circumstances, Contagion Carrier can be temporary, but not in your case. It has a side effect. You can see reality bleed. You can see a thin split gauze between our world and another, wherever there is one. Anyone who you touch while perceiving this tear that follows with you can slip through into the other reality. To resolve the condition, you must successfully apply an appropriate contagion cure. Then you won't be able to follow the contagion like you can now. Every time you inflict a Contagion Touch condition on someone, take a beat. Final questions?
No, but I'm pretty excited for that.
Sicky. Wait, this
I
is. I just
am
realized
the
how
plague.
relevant. I just realized how relevant this is for our current COVID
We have
situation.
not touched on that yet, but yeah. The timing of this book actual hitting the press is either perfect timing or the worst timing. It depends on who you ask, I suspect. But yes, I will bring up that in this game world, because we're about to discuss how it's different, there is no COVID-19. So there are all these contagions instead, which are worse because they'll end the world. I'm not going to get into that.
Who's to say this won't?
Right. Not getting into that debate. But yeah. So, trigger warning. If the virus upsets you, this is going to come up constantly. Also, not necessarily joking, we will announce sometimes to the cast ahead of time. Hopefully I'll remember to mention it out loud every time. Potential things that might come up during session, especially from our consent forms for yellow lines. But in this one, not much. It's going to be Nazis, so if fascism was checked, be aware of that. Have your cards ready. Loss of agency and mental illness is really it for the first session. Probably the second too. Oh, and body horror and creepy crawlies. Sorry, Steve. No cards for Steve because he's the producer. Oh no. Okay. Just realized that I have two of the same songs that didn't actually change. All right. Chicago. Chicago is where this story start and take place entirely, except when it's not Chicago. So let's talk about Chicago. Patrick, why is
Yes.
Donovan here, and how long's he been here? General, we'll just work this out. It doesn't have to be specific. Try not to be specific, especially if you're talking about you live here, so everything's different.
Okay. I will say Donovan has been here just recently. When he immigrated from Ireland, he lived in Maine. He lived in Maine for a good long part. I'm 38 years old, so I would say he's probably here 6 months to a year or less. He came because as is one in the church, there was a priest shuffling, and I have been relocated here.
This would be considered a promotion in your case too, by the way. Whether that's from manipulation because you took confession from another priest or actual hard work is up to you. I don't care.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me know by next week.
I went from a city of 30,000 to Chicago, so yes, this is a big promotion for me.
And a much bigger church too. Yeah, no matter which one we pick. But we're gonna say the church you work at for ease of the story will be somewhere near the Magnificent Mile, which we'll talk about in a minute. Central downtown region. Okay. Miss Vampire, this would be your home. So, for ease, we'll say that your current stomping grounds, I know you have enough protein that you can merge into the ground when necessary, so you don't need like a permanent house. So your current stomping grounds will also be Central Chicago, that whole region. You try to stay, you stay on the fringes and the outskirts though, with the Nosferatu, because you don't want to step on the toes of any inner city downtown vampires that can crush you like a bug.
Oh, don't crush Babushka, Katiana. I will just, rip your throat out, darling.
Mr. Werewolf, your remote cabin in Iowa isn't.
Wyoming.
I'm sorry. Your remote cabin in Wyoming isn't. Your remote cabin is actually past the west side, which is actually south. It's the west side on the map, but Chicago layout, it's west of south side. And directly to the west of the Cranberry Slough Nature Preserve in the Upland Woods. It's always been there. Totally. At least since you came to Chicago.
I actually had an idea of why he might be in Chicago, away from his sanctuary, so to speak, but
Go ahead and let us know what the original reason was, or write it down and put it in Discord. Because once you came here, the Contagion chain rewrote you.
Oh.
So you've always been here. Your house has always been here. That's not true. And Kaliak will see that, so put that in Discord so at least Everett knows.
Okay, cool.
Kaliak will be able to see your schism. Also, Domo the Destroyer, thank you for the sub. We appreciate it. Okay. And then Macintosh, this is his home city. It was originally also. Okay, Chicago. Now that the black oil has leaked out of the infrastructure from the previous arc and leaked into the major river, the Chicago River and the Calumet River. It has spread to the city. It's been several months. Actually, it's been a year because it's still fall, so we have to jump a year. For those who like technicalities, it's 2021, but all that matters is it's present fall. From the meta perspective of the players is what we're talking about here, not your characters. So that you understand the changes between our Chicago and the real Chicago, you have to understand what the Contagion has done to it. The weather here is extremely wet all the time, either rain or snow. It's always windy. The season seems to be locked at late fall, early winter, with temperatures hovering between 30 and 50 degrees at all times. It is always heavily overcast. Daylight cycles from twilight to early dawn, skipping the rest of the cycle entirely. Watch the vampire smile. This means early dawn lasts from about 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Twilight lasts from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. And 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. is night. There is nothing else. The Lake Michigan, is always choppy, and strange things lurk beneath the water now. The district's known as Downtown, the Navy Pier, and the Magnificent Mile, which is the main tourist area where the best shops and everything are. The Gauntlet has been severely weakened by the reality systems, but only to the twilight. Vampiric activity here has increased dramatically, as one would expect, in a world that has almost no sun. Well, in a city. Twilight is one of the spirit realms, the umbral realms, the realms beyond ours, that touch ours. In Chronicles of Darkness, you've got this world, and then the worlds that touch it, which are Twilight, Shadow, Anima Mundi, the Astral Plane, and the Underworld. I think I'm missing one. And then if you go far enough into those, you get the Abyss. The Abyss separates us from the supernal realms, all of the higher realms of reality. The Abyss is a terrible place where Cthulhu is. So, reality breaches popping in and out to the Shadow in that part of the world. The Shadow is a reflection of our world. The werewolves call it the Hissel. But unlike the Hissel that Eric's character would experience, this is the shadow of the city, not of the wild. So you'd go there and everything is a reflection of itself, but also somehow alive and carrying memories of everything that place had. What that means when it leaks over is any spirits that still are connected to the real world via unfinished business or fetters, or have not become fully geists yet, can cross back and forth. Everything is haunted. The west side of Chicago, jumped too far, sorry. The parks and the nature preserves in the entire area are dramatically overgrown, and the Gauntlet to the Hissel in those areas is significantly weakened, and sometimes you can wander between the two and not notice until you wonder why everything's shadowy and the forest never ends, and why everything is alive and trying to eat you. Your cabin, Eric, is west of the Cranberry Slough Nature Preserve in the Upland Woods. You can actually look that up if you're curious.
Cool.
The south side, all the south sides, I'm just calling it one south side for those who actually live in Chicago. The manufacturing area Gauntlet is weakened and verges to the Shadow are plentiful, but here they're very different. Here the manufacturing machines are alive and might devour you. And all of the depression and pain and hopelessness is a living, sentient thing almost. Strange creatures wander back and forth.
Damn.
The historic districts are suffering breaches to the underworld, which is where the spirits go that lose their fetters and can't connect to the real world anymore. Spirits in the underworld don't want to be there. They see these openings, they come charging through. These are like Ghostbusters ghosts, chaos, mayhem. There's no Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, but there are strange breaches that open and close. The far north side is largely unchanged from real Chicago. The entire area around downtown and the near north district is ringed with a strange area that has verges to the Temenos, and a few verges directly into the primordial dream, Patrick. The Temenos is the region of reality that goes to ancientness, to the way things were before in primal times. If you go far enough, that's where the primordial dream is, and you could actually walk if you took a wrong turn into Donovan's lair. It's not good, or other layers. So when you asked
just
earlier,
a heads up, you don't want to go there unless I invite you.
yes. So to your question earlier, are there apex predators? Constantly in flux. That's why I didn't answer that, as you can see based on these conditions.
Okay.
But I will tell you when an apex predator is nearby. Like if the prince drives past on the motorcade, you'll sense it, or whatever. The west side is much worse than real life Chicago and has verges to the Anima Mundi, which is a place of madness and chaos. That's where all the weird shit happens. If you pass out of Chicago proper but still stay within greater Chicago, the more potent your soul or spirit is, meaning all of you, the more likely you are to pass through a verge into the Oneros. The Oneros is the realm where you enter your own mind as a reality. You can imagine how that could be a nightmare. If you make it through that, and you try to exit out of greater Chicago, the more potent your soul or spirit is, the more likely you are to attract a reality schism that can pull you directly into the abyss. Bottom line, supernaturals go in, don't come out right now. Not if they can help it. Crossing the lake, there aren't a lot of the reality schisms, but there's a lot of actual Donovans in the water now. Powers and abilities may fluctuate in how they work. They may turn on and off randomly. They may be overpowered or uncontrollable. Some things are consistent across the city, however, as you'll have to discover. To everyone who's here, except when we start Kaliak, all of this is normal. You just accept the contagion when it passes over you. I'm not going to explain how any of this works yet. You'll have to figure it out. But for all of you at the beginning, except Kaliak, when weird shit happens, even if I give you the cues that you players know that it's weird, your characters just accept it as normal. Even if it randomly changes in the middle of a scene, the new change is normal. Questions about any of that?
Sounds good.
Okay. So, when our little story starts, you're all going to the library. Everybody should read more books. Read books, kids.
Agreed.
You're going to the Harold Washington Library Center on State Street. The Harold Washington Library Center is the central library repository for the Greater Chicago Library System. The building itself is 972,000 square feet. Has 10 floors up, 4 floors down. So if you count underground floors, it's 14-story, 100,000 or a million square foot structure. It's big. It's the second largest library system in the Midwest, and possibly the largest main building, I'm not sure. So, for Grandma, the abandoned child that you care for and are so ferocious about, loves to spend her days in the library because it's warm and or air conditioned depending on season, and she loves to read. Goodness, fantasy is better than her reality, right? She went to the library today. However, she didn't show up for the normal time when you bring her something to eat, and it's been an hour and you're concerned, so you're going to head to the library and see what that kid's doing. Gotta make sure she's okay, right? Character's name again, Eric? I don't have it memorized yet.
Benji.
Benji! You gotta stay busy, right? Even if your basic expenses are paid for by your reserves pay and your benefits from the Army, you're not on active duty.
No.
So you picked up a job as a paramedic. Your ambulance parks right near the library while waiting on calls. Not convenient.
Oh, I can check out some comics.
You don't necessarily have to be inside, but you'd be close enough to react when things happen. It's up to you. Donovan.
Aye.
Nessa sent you a text out of the blue saying all kinds of weird shit. And please come to the library and help. You responded to the first 3 or 4 like, can't be Nessa, this is a fucking joke. She proved to you it was. And said that she didn't want to tell you she was here, even though she has been kept, if you're Irish, people back home have told her what's been going on with you. It's how that works. However, she purposely tried to stay out of your way because she's here with her new husband. Didn't want to get into all of that. However, or her new fiance, I apologize. However, when she comes screaming for help, Donovan runs.
Aye, yes I do.
Ever, your permanent condition lets you notice reality bleed, and you've noticed over the last 48 hours that they've been coalescing around this building. So you've been hanging out to see what the hell's going on. Maybe you'll get answers. So, now you can take a moment, get yourself some characters while we switch scenes. Discuss amongst yourselves for a moment while I fetch someone noisy.
All right. Do. I am so excited.
Imagine him reading a Werewolf by Night comic book, sitting in the back of the ambulance, like, huh? Oh, Moon Knight. Oh, that's pretty cool.
Nice. Oh, Katiana is probably like panicking, cause like, where is my little one? Where did she go?
Oh, no.
I make old school stew. She must try. Yes. Where is my child?
Okay,
My
so let's begin with Kaliak, who would have already been here. Looks like a normal night at the library so far. What do you do? You're outside looking in. Normally the library would close at 8 p.m. Recently it's been closing at midnight.
There's so much fear. I wonder what's going on. Probably the contagion. I haven't fed in a while. I could probably find something delicious. I think I'll go inside.
Please roll 1d10 plus 3. That will be your starting glamour. Eight. Not bad. You head into the library. So far, everything seems normal. When you first walk into the library, to walk past security, and they make sure you're not armed. Of course, it's a big library. Then you go out into the information district and go past all the kiosks, and then you have to decide where you want to go. The higher up you go, the less you stop being library books and you start being, there's an art gallery floor and there's an arboreum floor. You can't get to the 10th floor, it's off limits to the public. Where do you want to go to, or do you want to wander to?
Let's go devour some art.
Okay. You head to the upper floors. Mr. Werewolf by Night. As you flip to the comic going, that is not how that works. That is how that works. Huh, that's funny.
Exactly.
Please roll 1d10, and this will be your starting essence.
All right.
Reroll if it's a 1.
1d10. Oh, it's a 2.
Better than a 1. Okay, your starting essence is 2.
Starting essence is 2. Okay, got it. All right.
Refill as normal from here. Grandma, after you wander inside and scold the guy at the door about how his collar is crooked and his shirt has a mustard stain on it, and you try to clean it with a onesie, you finally get into the library.
Back.
You finally manage to get into the library, and you're starting to wander through the stacks. Please roll 1d10. This will be your starting vitae. Vitae.
Okay. Oops. Come on.
10.
Hey!
Nice. 10 starting vitae.
Wow.
Assuming you can hold 10. I think if you can't, it's whatever your max is.
Well, it's 10 plus 3.
The plus 3 is for Kaliak because she has a thing that does that.
Oh, okay. Just kidding.
That's one of her merits.
Aha. Now, where do I put that?
Vitae's in the middle right.
Yes, I see.
And Donovan.
Hi.
Roll 1d10 plus 1. This will be your starting satiety. It's
You
tied.
want to do that, or do you want to use the formula that the handbook uses?
Oh, right. Beasts don't have to roll. Yes, use your handbook formula.
Just so everyone knows, I'm starting at 5 satiety.
Beasts are a little different than most of the other games.
That means I could eat, but I don't have to.
Okay. You, of course, come barging in, almost getting in a shouting match with the guy at the door because he slows you down. But then when he sees your frock, or when he sees your, it's not called a frock. Help me out. Your collar.
Just collar.
When he sees your collar, he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Father. Go ahead." Just looking priest ever.
Oh, I'll see you at confession. What's the weather like? Like, what season are we in?
It always seems to be perpetually fall because of the contagion. It's overcast, and today it's rainy and blustery. It's like 45 degrees.
Cool. Before I came in, just because it's Nessa, and who knows what trouble she's gotten herself into this time, I've got my wraps on, kind of looking. They look enough like gloves. I'm prepared. I'm ready to kick some arse if I need to.
Time of day would be early evening, so it's pitch black out. Anything after 7 p.m. is deep night.
I feel right at home.
Yeah, it's wet and dark, exactly. So, once in the building, starting with Kaliak, what specifically do you do? Kaliak, you take the elevator to the art floor, and it's a large gallery you're in, and there's hallways to other galleries. It looks like 4 interconnected galleries, each has a theme of the month or whatever. The gallery you walk into, its theme seems to be arborea, plants. It's all plants and flowers.
So pretty. I like it.
There are signs pointing to the other wings. There seems to be a shark exhibit. That one seems more natural history than art, but whatever. That's to the north. And then the 2 west wings south from your perspective. One is Shades of Autumn. One's called Shark Week Redux, one's called Shades of Autumn, and the other one is called What Do You Fear?
Oh, can't resist that.
So you head into that area. That area is an entire gallery full of horror art, but it's not all traditional horror. Some of it, because the artists were told, create what you fear. It's sculptures and drawings and other kinds of 3D art too. But some of them are like madness and depression and death, you know. A lot of themes are represented. If there's a theme you're attracted to, you can find some artwork.
Things that might indicate someone who's come in contact with the contagion.
Okay, go ahead and roll Witch plus Composure. Let's see what you can notice.
One success.
You do notice there's a small knot of about 6 people all standing around one art piece that, when you look at it, it's like a shadowy figure stalking a young girl running through the woods at 2 Red Riding Hood. But then when you blink and look at it again, it's like it shifts. And now it's like a maze of tunnels with screaming mouths everywhere. And then it shifts again. That's fascinating because it's not digital art. It's like a painting. And you feel like, yep, there's something going on with that. And the people around it are just staring at it like they're mesmerized. They're not whispering to each other like art patrons normally do.
I definitely want to go check this piece out.
Okay. You head towards the piece. Babushka, roll me wits plus composure. Let's see if you can spot your surrogate child. Check wits, check composure, and roll the dice.
Wits and composure.
And then in the quick action bar, click the one that says 10 and or D.
And then I click the 10.
Correct.
10 again. Oop. 4 successes.
That's a lot of 10s. Good start. You do see her.
knows everything. Come, darling.
You do see her on the other end of this section. There's a whole bunch of stacks of books here. This is the fiction section of the library. It's got 2 wings to it. And you can see her all the way across the west wing at the very back, up against one of those big glass windows libraries that always have. And they have couches and chairs everywhere that are overstuffed so you can sit in them and read. She's way back in one, curled up in a chair, absorbed in a book. You start heading that way. Donovan, same for you. Composure plus resolve once you get inside. I'm sorry. Resolve plus wits once you get inside.
Resolve and wits. No successes.
Ooh. Okay. You're desperately searching around. You have not found her yet. But you wander your way into the fiction section as well. Just because you're eliminating floors. You do not see her anywhere, though. And then
I'm assuming I'd be using a smartphone.
Yes, because she texted you.
Sure. Can I use the ability to see people's locations with text messages and see if she's actually here?
I don't know. Let's see if she's got that app turned on. She does. You rolled an 8 on the chance die. All right.
Excellent.
So, the app is in fact turned on. The whatever Find Me app that her app of choice that you happen to know about. You see that she's actually in the fiction section also, again on the western side, but right in the middle of the stacks. And it keeps moving back and forth in a confined area. It's weird.
It's GPS. It's not 100% accurate inside. I head over.
Okay, and last but not least, Benji.
Right. What am I rolling? Wits specifically?
So what happens is, as all 4 of them in a combined scene start moving towards their objectives, you don't even have to roll because you see all the lights in the library. Remember, it's a 10-story, 1 million square foot building. Flicker out. And then after an agonizingly long 30 seconds, start flickering on one floor at a time, starting at the top and working its way down.
Looking at the other buildings around here to see if they're losing power as well.
They're not. Your partner's like, it's fucking weird.
Yeah, you said it. I look over to see if there's anybody like just outside of the library, like if they're closing
there
down
are, and
for
they're
the
all
night,
like,
or
it's weird, but they're going in because the lights came back on.
oh, okay. Shrugs.
And your partner's like, should we go in? But then all the lights, but then all of the lights in the entire outer part of the building, not just the inner, also flicker.
What's going on? Are we getting anything on the
And they go out for a solid 15 seconds. And when they come back on this time, you blink and you're like, that's weird. Why would the Reich ever let that happen? And it's the same library. It's got 2 giant Nazi flags leaning down the left and right side of the entrance.
Oh hell!
You look at your partner. You look at your partner, who's dressed in the standard uniform of the Reichstag, the Reich's police systems. The police. Emergency
Nazi?
Systems Network.
No, I'm just like, I'm looking at the hot,
This is perfectly normal to you. It's always been this way. Notice the glitch effect in Astral. The player hint.
Oh, got it. Yeah. Yeah.
And
I see it.
this isn't like occupation. This is just your government. So like there aren't armed, Nazi soldiers everywhere. But there would be guards in the building because every government building is protected from insurgents and extremists. Yeah, it's always been this way.
Oh. Okay.
Nazis won the race to the A-bomb in America. For a
Gotcha.
while there, the country was divided between the Japanese Empire and the Nazi Third Reich, and where there was a neutral zone across the middle of the country. But then, in the 50s and 60s, there was a power grab, and of course, the Japanese Empire won because the Nazis controlled most of the world. They just had more resources to draw on. So now all of America belongs to the Reich and is controlled by the Reichsmarshal, John Smith. So, the lights come back on and your partner looks at you and you look at your partner and you're both like, that's weird. It's our duty to go see what's going on.
Nods. Okay. Guess that's gonna be he checks his watch. Okay, let's go.
Oh no.
No spoiling the plot, Mr. Producer. Back inside, Babushka and Donovan, again, this is normal. However, Donovan, the thing that changes for you is state-sanctioned church officer. You are still Catholic.
I was just about to say, I don't know if they be taken to Catholics now.
Catholicism still exists, but it's controlled by the state and has very strict structure. The Nazis learned that they couldn't completely eliminate it, just like they couldn't completely eliminate all symbols of America and still keep the population quelled. You've got to let some of it survive. You got to give them there's got to be a little bend in the steel, in the iron. But yeah, it's very different. And you spout state ideologies when you do confession.
And how'd Ireland fare in this whole changing?
Well, to be blunt, Ireland is white people, so pretty okay.
Alrighty then.
Also, they just kind of fell in the actual war when Britain fell.
Right, but they remained pretty neutral, I believe, actually.
Yep.
So
they remained neutral as long as they could, but when Britain fell, it's just the way around it. Because this is a symbol of the contagion, we don't worry about how that changed your IRA pass. It doesn't something that occurs to you. You wouldn't think about that.
Right.
For you, Babushka, you don't have a Russian accent for the duration of the scene because, yeah, not a lot of them left.
Well, that's fine.
Perfect.
I certainly have a self-control, and I'm gonna stick with it.
So, for you, Kaliak, you walk over and you're looking at the painting, and when the lights go out and come back on, the painting has stopped twisting and turning, and now it's just, what do you fear? It's a picture of the American flag. And you immediately realize, because of your condition, that you just slipped through a switch, but you didn't pass because you know you have to walk through them. It's like a membrane. It's like pushing through gross membrane squishy shit, right? That didn't happen. It changed around you. This is new and different. Whatever is going on that followed that kid, this is different. You didn't slip through a crack. It's like everything changed around you suddenly. And you have slipped through a few cracks before when you explored Chicago. You quickly stopped as you realized sometimes you can get stuck there. But you did slip through a crack into an alternate reality, because there are many realities of history where the Nazis actually did win. You've seen this. But that reality isn't supreme. Or at least it wasn't.
Not again.
So in your case, only you rush to a window and look out, and you can see that to a radius of about a quarter of a block around the library, it's this reality. But then there's like a literal bubble when everything is normal Chicago. It's a localized reality chair.
How in the fuck did
Yeah,
this happen?
this is new and terrible.
It had to be centered around that painting.
You're thinking that when suddenly all of you who are inside start hearing terrible screaming from the fiction section. For you, Kaliak, you don't hear the screaming because you're many floors away, but you see the guards on this floor click their radios and you hear noise coming out of it that sounds like screaming, and they take off for the elevators.
Time to follow.
The screaming, for those of you downstairs, comes from right in the middle of the fiction stacks. For you two, for not Babushka, Southern Grandma, from Mima, yes, and Donovan.
Cam.
Just as you two are walking in past the kiosk area, Benji, you also hear the screaming.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, we better go check it out. He takes off running.
Yeah, start running in.
So you two that are actually in the fiction section, you're close to what you want to do.
I immediately go over to the screaming.
Donovan takes
Same.
off. Mima hobbles quickly. If you're trying to maintain the facade, you can just drop it if you want to. There are humans everywhere.
Oh no, she keeps the facade.
Okay.
Because...
So Donovan, you will get there first. In the middle of the stacks is a giant pile of collapsed books. An unconscious guy under the collapsed books, and your ex, whatever she is to you, just like looking at him, pulling her cheeks down, screaming, top of her lungs.
I'll grab Nessa and move her away, so it looks like she's just got there, just like she wasn't part of this. She was kind of like got there at the same time I did, and just be like, "What's happened? What's going on?"
She's looking away from you when you touch her, so please roll to grapple her, because she immediately freaks out and tries to claw your face off.
Oh, I get to grapple someone already? Let's
No,
go.
right?
So like brawl and strength,
Yeah, it's going to be brawl plus strength, correct.
and then
If you have a specialty, then yes.
I'd like to use my specialty as an MMA fighter to add another
Yes.
die. Alright.
I allow either. You can add another die or drop to 9 again.
I'll do 9 again. Sounds baller. It's gonna shoot me in the ass right here, but I'm gonna do it. 3 successes.
Nice. Yep. Almost no chance for her to beat that, but here we go. Take a couple chance. Nope, you grapple her. However, she is clawing your face. What's your defense? It'll be in the bottom right.
It's pretty high actually. 6.
You don't take any damage from it, though. You're able to bat her hands out of the way, and you have stick leathery priest skin. MMA fighter skin. Even all these years later.
Nessa, it's me. It's Donovan. Calm down.
Oh my God, Donovan, this isn't right. We shouldn't be here.
I know. Just
We beat the Nazis.
I make sure. Has anyone come over yet?
Just an old lady hobbling like your grandma heading towards you.
Okay. Keep your voice down. I don't know what you're talking about, but that's not true.
She immediately tries to keep yelling about it loudly.
I will cover her mouth then.
Okay. Since you got 3 successes on the attack, you can do a grapple stunt, or it's equivalent.
Cool. I
And
will
cover her mouth.
I've got grapple stuff I can do up here. I will. I will hold, so that way the next time I can restrain.
Okay. Mima, you come hobbling in and you see all this. Roll wits plus resolve. See what you notice.
Okay. I don't know why I just clicked that. Because I'm a dingus, but that's okay. At least I'm cute. Let's see. Wits and resolve, you say?
Correct.
And that's with a 10?
Yep. It'll always be 10 unless we say otherwise, Mr. Rare.
Okay, that didn't go
That didn't
through.
work. That was only one die. Yeah.
I clicked it, though. Hold on.
It rolled
I'm
one
gonna try
die,
again.
but you might not have everything checked.
You said wits and resolve, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I clicked it. Yeah, wits and resolve is clicked. It's weird. Oh, I clicked the wrong one. That's why.
No success.
0.
Okay. You notice you're in the historical fiction section, but nothing else.
Meemaw's eyes don't quite work, but they used to.
Some state priest is trying to contain some woman screaming about how Nazis are bad, which is not what you talk about in this reality.
Oh, bless her heart. She been done touched in the head.
Yeah, and depending on the personality of Meemaw, you realize that if you don't help to contain her, you're going to drag her off and do terrible things. And if you do think that she's just a poor simpleton, maybe you can quiet her down so they don't drag her out of here for reconditioning. She's a cute little thing.
I can do that, can't I?
You could help him with another strength plus close combat roll. You could burn a point of vitae to increase the dice by 2.
You know what? I think I'll go ahead and do that. I'll burn a vitae to help out with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Patrick, on this immediate floor, the apex predator walks up to you. As the only other supernatural being on the floor, that's what you sense. Since I'm giving you immediate instead of
gotcha.
Tiffany's character as the only vampire here is the apex predator of this floor. And then Katiana rolls strength plus close combat plus 2 bonus dice. Bonus dice are at the top of the sheet.
Okay, so strength plus what?
Brawl.
I actually have a dot in that. And you said 2 bonus die.
Correct.
Okay. And then I roll a 10 again. Clickety click. 1 success.
Okay. Grandma walks up and slaps her hand over the mouth of your girlfriend and just effortlessly pushes her up against the stacks and you can't hear her screaming anymore. About that time, Kaliak, you come out of the elevator because you're going to take the stairs for this. And you see 4 guards converging on the historical fiction stacks, and there's some kind of commotion going on in the middle. There's books everywhere and 3 people struggling.
Looks like fun. I think I'll go check that out.
Donovan, the apex predator changes because we're rating it on experience points spent. Also, this one makes your whole spine shiver and tingle. That's unusual.
Is this other predator approaching?
Yes.
Do I have visual sight?
Yes. So yes. Donovan, give us your physical description, since we haven't actually done that as a character yet.
Donovan is a very imposing figure. He's about 6'4", 275, 300. But he is drop dead gorgeous. People literally drool over him. He keeps his hair kind of mid-length crop top. He even underneath all of his usual priest clothes, you can tell that there's a very muscular frame underneath there. His eyes are very, very deep green, and it's like looking into the depths of the ocean when you look into them. It's just you almost kind of like are naturally. It's almost like a hypnotic effect. Like you just want to approach him and talk to him. He looks very much like I do right now. This is supposed to be what he wears in the daily. Yeah, he's about 38 years old. So he's kind of in that age where it's like, especially because he's still fit from his MMA fighting, where it's like he could pass for a little bit younger, but like you can tell that this isn't just some kid off the street. You know, he's had some life experiences.
And describe your totally not girlfriend because you're a celibate priest.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. One of those vows I took was celibacy. No. Nessa is kind of like almost the exact opposite. She's like 5'2", long blonde hair, blue eyes, very short, petite, just kind of dancer frame. Just looks kind of like, and she gets confused for like a teenager a lot, but she's really like 29-ish, so a little bit younger than Donovan, but you know she's not that young, even though she could very easily pass for it. But just stunning as well. It's like, you know, if you imagine like what like a supermodel should go with, and then like another male model, like those are those, like you're like, oh yeah, of course those two people are together because they're supposed to be together.
Super photogenic.
And Mima, give us your description. At least what they would see. You'd basically be the same, just less Russian, also muted. Oh, still can't hear you. Maybe you're not muted.
It's muted.
Of course I am.
There you go.
Mima just looks like a typical grandma. You know, she's got really long, grayish silver hair. She's got the crow's feet and wrinkles everywhere. She's kind of got like the turkey neck, kind of like extra skin hanging there, you know, at the neck.
Giblet.
She's got the little hump right at her in the back. You know, osteoporosis is kicking in. She's in her 70s, so you know. Mima is just kind of like old. Like she's so old looking. She makes Betty White look like she's in her 40s.
And what kind of bag lady do you look like? How bag lady are you?
Like she's got like the traditional little scarf, you know, around her head. You know, she's got the little hunch. She's got a shopping bag. She has a reusable tote with shopping bags inside of it. Nice. And inside those shopping bags are other shopping bags. And like in those shopping bags are like little things, mints, and like those weird little candies that look like pineapples that are like painted as strawberries. Like she's got like those really weird candies that mysteriously just show up in her bag somehow.
Homeless lady candy.
And yeah, that's pretty much it. She just looks, despite her actually having like a roof over her head, she looks completely homeless and smells very slightly of that weird like peppermint ointment and like like lavender oil, but like too much. So it's a little overwhelming. Like she just smells like an old person.
Wow.
Yeah.
And mothballs. Kaliak, what about you?
Oh yeah, definitely the mothballs.
In her mask, which is her mostly human form.
Which is all anyone can see right now.
Right now. She has black lips, which Yeah, that's lipstick, right? She's got black around her eyelids, which is probably makeup. White hair. Probably dyed. Right? Yeah. She moves kind of strangely. There's a disparity in the way she moves her head and the way she moves her hands. When she tilts her head, it's kind of jerky, almost as if she's trying to process how to move. But her hands are very much like when a spider crawls up a wall. So you've got this disagreement in how she moves.
You shush,
Actually,
Mr.
taking his
Producer.
wig off because I legit feel them crawling on me now because of the wig. Thank you.
Perfect.
I'm sorry. And so
I'm not. That's perfect.
she has this very stereotypical female body where it's an hourglass figure, but something about it, she moves as if almost like she's made out of machine. She's not. Where some of the gears are oiled and some are having a little trouble, so it's almost as if she's glitching when she moves. When she's around, she doesn't wear perfume, but you swear that you smell autumn leaves, that honeyed, sweet decay. And accompanying her voice is the rustling of the leaves. And from time to time, out of the corner of your eye, you might see shadow trailing from her movements, or something crawling on her shoulder or her leg. It's just
Mr.
a
John
figment of
Smith,
your
I think you've been out
imagination.
creeped. So, you wander in on this, and just as you're about to say something, because they're not actually looking at you yet, you hear barking orders from local, not so secret police protection forces. What the hell is going on here? What kind of disturbance is this? This is a public space. And 2 men at one end of the aisle and 2 men at the other step into view.
Oh, excuse me. I'm a state priest. I'm just here. I heard a commotion, and I'm here to help.
Oh, don't mind this poor child. She just don't, she's just hysterical because her favorite show just don't gonna cancel. I might reckon that she just kind of lost her mind because her favorite character just got married off with somebody else. Everything's fine, honey. Oh, bless her heart, she'll be fine.
Okay, Mima, you can make the supporting roll. Go ahead and roll subterfuge or manipulation, whichever's better. Wait. Gonna cross the streams again. I need you to roll manipulation plus either subterfuge or expression, whichever's better for you.
They're both the same.
Nice. Subterfuge then, because you're lying.
Yes. Meemaw gets a 1 success and it's all green. Natural 10.
Ooh.
Excellent. Donovan, need you to roll manipulation plus subterfuge once, and then I need you to roll presence plus subterfuge once, because I rolled a chance dice for each of them, and one of them's into guys.
Okay. This is manipulation and subterfuge.
For the 3. So
That's
4
3.
successes, because you got +1 from Katiana.
And then you said presence and subterfuge?
For the second one, for that last guy, yes.
Okay, presence and subterfuge. Come on. Come on. There it goes. 3 successes again.
So 4 on that one too. Okay. Nice. Didn't even need them both. Yeah, so you two are actually able to calm them down, but they of course barge in and are like, we have to help. What's not? What's crap, what's her name?
Nessa.
Once Nessa sees what's going on though, she immediately gets like chalk white and can't talk because she's terrified out of her mind.
Which is best?
About that time, Benji and his partner have rushed in and they're offering help too, and they overhear the bit about how she's whatever your lie was that you said, she's overwhelmed by her nonsense because she's touched in the head. So you offer to go over and take her vitals and check her out. But I need you to roll resolve or wits plus resolve plus
Okay.
1 bonus die.
Plus 1. Are you okay, ma'am?
This is before you enter the stacks. Your partner rushes right in. You're like, oh, I don't have to sprint. The place is already crowded.
Okay.
So you glance around casually.
1 success.
Everyone in the place seems to be focused on what's going on, except one kid in the back corner curled up on the couch by the big bay window, completely absorbed in a book.
Just like glance at them like twice, like, is this guy for real?
It's a girl. That
Oh.
must be a really good book. See you squint. Man in the High Castle by Philip K. Dick.
Nice.
And you're
Yeah.
like, that's weird, but whatever. It's just a kid.
Mhm.
So you turn to head down the hallway. And that's when you hear shouting and noise up front, and glass shatter, and machine gun fire. The 4, submachine gun fire. The 4 guards whip around, and you hear shouting and yelling, and machine gun fire tears through the place, and one of the guards actually blood splatters everywhere as he gets hit by like 3 bullets and is flung into the stacks. And the other 3 pull their guns as you hear some guy in a semi-Boston accent shout, "Support labor." And that's where we pause until next time.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, dang. Okay. Very appropriate introduction for Sean's character, I have to say. Nailed it.
You actually see 3 or 4 guys run in. It looks like the local resistance is here, and they're here to kill some Nazis.
Oh, dang.
Which is weird.
going down?
Why are they in the library?
Hmm.
Those are questions for next week, though. Well, that's as far as we can stretch the quarantine for this week, fellow night horrors. As our night horrors here need to rest and recover, but do not fear, this chronicle will carry on next Monday at 9 p.m. EST with all the action. As for other terrifying tales and awesome adventures you can enjoy with Horrible Tales, you can catch me, Tyler Eldritch Echoes Online, as GM on Mondays for this game, Wednesdays running World of Darkness Ghost Hunter on this channel. Kickstarter starts tomorrow. It's actually a really cool supplement for the World of Darkness. And Fridays running both of our horror games, Alien the RPG and Cult Infinity Lost. On Sundays, Eric runs Conan Adventures in the Age Undreamed Of until we get closer to the holidays or slightly past them, and then we're running a Dune campaign. We don't care if the movie's been delayed, we're going to get into this. On Tuesday, we play Dungeons with Mad Mage. Donovan Patty's in charge. And on Thursdays, we play Starfinder, where our missing compatriot is in charge. All shows at 9 p.m. Eastern. Cass, let the viewers know where they can catch you next, and if you're doing anything else cool, they can follow or watch online.
So
Starting with Ever, yes.
I figured. So you can find me in much nicer, kinder voices on the internet as Changeling Ever. My name is Ever, my pronouns are they, them, and tonight I have been Kellyak, whose pronouns are she and it. You can find me on Horrible Tales pretty much every game except for Dune, and if I am not gaming, I am live tweeting, so catch me tomorrow for Patty's Game of Awesomeness Mad Mage, and Wednesday for Ghost Hunters. And Thursday for Starfinder. And Friday for Cult, which I'm pretty excited to play. There's a lot of firsts this week, so if you miss them, catch them on the video on demand. And otherwise, it's a lot of rules dumps, so if you tune in later, it's perfectly fine. If you don't get the rules, tune in on time and you'll learn all about them.
Me next?
Yes. Well, you defrocked quickly.
Right? Doesn't take much. Ness is around, so you know. I gotta lighten up a little bit. I am Patrick. I am Patrick, aka Patty Shakes, all over the internet. Next time you'll see me is tomorrow on the Vorpal Tales channel. We will be doing Dungeon of the Mad Mage. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be baller. It's gonna have a good time. It's gonna be D&D 5e epicness. So you should totally tune in for that. That's gonna be at 9 p.m. right? Everything's 9 p.m. now. 9 p.m. tomorrow. So you should totally tune in for that. Other than that, I will be here Mondays for this game. So those will be the times you can see me.
Yep.
Hi! So, Pinky_88 on Twitter. You can catch me tomorrow on the Vorpal Tales Twitch channel with the Mad Mage. Super excited. And then you can also catch me here on Wednesday with this awesome Ghost Hunter. Super excited for that one because y'all get to hear even more of my southern drawl, but it's going to be slightly different. You know, it's going to be a different area of the South. Haven't quite figured it out just yet. That's all right. If you guys don't see me playing games, you'll definitely be seeing me harassing these awesome peeps in the chat channels, let them show love and all that good stuff. I will be here every Monday and Tuesday and a Wednesday for sure. Definitely come check us out. You don't catch it on time, that's fine. You can check us out at our awesome YouTube channel, Vorpal Tales. We have all of our stuff current as well as stuff from the past. So if you want to check us back from the very beginning, check it out.
That's me now. Yeah, and I'm Eric, of course. You can find me on Twitter at Maroon Recluse. I'll be here this Sunday to GM Conan, 3 Black Coffins, and then I'll be back here again on Monday to play Contagion Chronicle. So stick around.
Before we leave you, we must do one last thing. At the end of all of our sessions, we let each player vote for any other player for any reason. Each vote in this game will be worth either the number of beats you need to get to your next experience point, or plus 2 dice to any one roll at any future session.
Nice.
Also, we didn't start with aspirations this session because our live play part was shorter, but next week have your aspirations ready also. We will go over them before we begin. So, Benji, who's your favorite and why?
And everybody was great, but Pinky killed me with the grandma, so I gotta give it to her.
Okay, Donovan.
I'll have to give it to Changeling Ever because they're like spooky kind of like I said in the chat. There's just like a hint of like terror and that's what I'm looking for. Intimidation and threat in their voice at all times. It's just kind of like, oh, I feel like if I say one thing wrong, I'm gonna die.
Carried that across very well.
Yes, menace. Good work done, Arnetto. And Katiana.
I feel like giving my vote tonight to Benji, just because just sitting in the back, you know, reading a comic, be like, this is not right. That's wrong. That's wrong. That doesn't happen. I wish that would happen. No, that's stupid. Like, I can just see him just absolutely criticizing every single little thing and be like, this is a waste of my money. this is dumb. I could write something better than this. Whatever. I thought it was pretty funny.
Thank you.
And Kaliak.
So I'm gonna have to give it to Tiffany because frickin' do you know how hard it is to keep a straight face when you keep doing the funny shit? Like
You were
This
feeling
goes-
producer's pain and appreciation.
Yes. Steven knows what you're talking about.
was trying so hard to keep a straight face and you almost threw me off there. So
I gotta
for
try
kicking
harder.
my butt like that, yeah.
Okay. Also,
well,
you
you know,
got,
that's what you get for spiders. So
you also got 1 beat for attendance, 1 beat for your excellent character descriptions. I made you talk more than me for a first session, and 1 beat for the bit of story we did do. Anyone who got a vote automatically upgrades to 5 beats, resets to 0, has an experience. All right. Don't forget to follow us here on Twitch or the podcast service you're listening on. Look us up on social media. Check out our website, warpatales.com, and if so inclined, our Patreon at patreon.com/warpatales. And until then, we'll see you next week to see how they deal with Macintosh shooting some Nazis. So until then, we wish you good night.